By the way, Wilmington, New York. Producer Kate found it on a map. It's northeast of Lake Placid. So Saranac Lake is -2 right now. So that's where we've got the coldest air.
63 below. Could you imagine that?
That could hurt, right? You don't want to be out there too long. All right, Boston, congrats. We did make it to freezing yesterday. Our high was 32 degrees. That's still below where we should be. 38 is average. And for the season, we are well above average when it comes to snowfall, 39.5 inches, giving us a surplus of 10. How about a little more snow in Boston Harbor? We do have more on the way. Winter weather advisory goes into effect later this evening, and it's with us right through tomorrow morning, affecting this evening's commute and possibly early commuters as well. There's the snow moving in after the sun goes down. It's filling up from the Worcester Hills over towards Boston, down towards Plymouth, and also into Cape Cod. So there will be cold enough air to support the snow, kind of winding down as we head into the first part of Wednesday. Here's a look at how much we're expecting. It's fairly fast, so we're only talking 1 to 3 inches in most places. Darker shade of blue, we could see a little bit more, where recently, of course, Beverly, you guys picked up a foot of snow over the weekend. Here's a look at southern New Hampshire. From Manchester up towards Concord, we see some snow arriving for us. This is going to be after sunset. At times, that snow could get a little heavy out there, so even though we don't get major amounts of snow, it could still be very hazardous for driving, especially on the untreated surfaces. So just keep that in mind if you're doing any traveling between tonight and tomorrow morning, and you see some heavier amounts off to the east of Concord, where somebody could get anywhere from 3 to 5 inches of snow. Up towards Portland, Maine, here too, a winter weather advisory going into effect later this evening, because today we're good. No problems, really. It's not going to be until much later on into the evening time frame, 7, 8 o'clock. That's when we start to see the snow moving on in, up the 95 corridor, up towards Augusta and beyond, and we could see a few inches accumulating in Portland. Really, we can handle that in the state of Maine, right? Here's your snow. Jim was talking about Rochester right there, and it does look like we've got some darker blue showing up on the radar, so indicating maybe a little bit of heavier snow moving across western New York, right along the shores of Lake Ontario, headed for the Tugs, where we do see some heavier amounts, but you may have saw a blip of green out there where we start to mix in with rain at times for the southern tier of New York. But as you can see, just a few snow showers lingering into tomorrow. But the heaviest snow, Jordan, is going to be well to the north and east of the Cuse.
Well, we had some icing conditions ongoing
across the deep south.
Well, we'll take that over ice any day.
Right.
We still have, a few people without power in Mississippi, unfortunately. You mentioned New Orleans. 1 week from today is Fat Tuesday. Mardi Gras parades may need to be kind of adjusted with those storms this weekend. Here's that moisture being pulled north. Of course, we will have a good deal of rain, as Jim just talked about. But once it hits that cold air right up here across the upper Ohio Valley and the mid-Atlantic, we'll see what type of precip we get, depending, of course, on the strength of the high, supplying the cold, the moisture, the timing, and, of course, the exact track will determine who gets in on some of that wintry precipitation. Even mixed rain and snow and even freezing rain is a possibility for portions of Ohio and the Virginias. To the south we go. It is going to be rain and beneficial rain. I mean, Atlanta, for the year, we're down a little over 2 inches, but for the, since December 1st, we're down over 4. Here's a look at what happens in the Northeast, or at least what we're thinking is going to happen with the models. The European model has light to moderate snow across a good deal of the Northeast, a few specks of purple here and there. The American barely has anything going on. Hudson Valley, New York, Boston, nothing. But again, too soon to say exactly how this is going to play out. It really does depend on the timing of the cold air and, of course, the track of our low. Here comes that pink breaking out on the day after Valentine's Day. An ugly color, though, when it comes to our weather map. That is your freezing rain from Fort Wayne, Indiana, down into Beckley, West Virginia. Northeast may start as a bit of snow or even some mixed precipitation, New York up to Boston. But then you can see we will have snow for the interior sections of the Northeast, but the 95 corridor, a bit of a trickier forecast. We're up in terms of snowfall for a good deal of the Northeast, the eastern Great Lakes, looking at surpluses from Detroit to Albany on over towards Boston, 10 inches above average. The only arrow pointing down would be Caribou. We're actually about 10 inches below average. Here's a look at Boston, where we do have a winter weather advisory today, by the way. Next system comes in toward the end of the week into President's Day with a mix of rain and snow. And same thing for New York City. May start with a wintry mix and then going over to rain. All right, let's leave you with a look at Boston.
Okay, yeah. I'll take it.
I mean, to your point, Boston was 18 on Sunday. Yesterday, we made it to freezing, 32 for a high, but we should be in the upper 30s this time of the year. So we're going in the right direction. And yes, we've got some light snow that eventually moves into Boston. And we've got a surplus when it comes to the season, 39.5 inches so far. And we're going to break that 40-inch mark here with the snow that's coming in later this evening towards tomorrow morning. So your winter weather advisory basically goes from 6 p.m. tonight to 6 a.m. tomorrow morning. You can see the snow makes its way in after the sun goes down. So as Jim just talked about, there will be some slippery roads, untreated surfaces. You've got the cold road surfaces, and there's your snow from the Worcester Hills on over towards Boston, Plymouth, down to the Cape, parts of Rhode Island also in on that light to moderate snow. It's a pretty fast mover, though, so we're not expecting a lot of accumulation, minor overall, and that's why it's meeting advisory criteria. Here into New Manchester, New Hampshire, up towards Concord, southward to Nashua. Here comes the snow by later on this evening as well. Winter weather advisory included for us here in the counties of southern New Hampshire. And there's your snow through the overnight hours. Could be a little slick out there trying to get around. Even tomorrow morning's commute may be impacted by the wintry weather, especially east of Manchester and Concord, where we could see anywhere from 3 to 5 inches of snow. Up the beautiful rocky coast of Maine, here in Portland, winter weather advisory tonight through tomorrow morning. Our snow really doesn't get started until well after sundown, 7, 8 o'clock. Here it comes into Portland, into Augusta, Maine, up the 95 corridor. The only place that's below average when it comes to snowfall is Aroostook County, way up in the northern parts of Maine. But Portland, we've got anywhere from 2 to 3 inches of snow on the way. Last check, Rochester, visibility was down below a mile last hour. Now we're above a mile, but just a little bit. You can see the darker shades of blue actually indicating where some of that heavier snow is falling across the western side of New York, moving into the Finger Lakes region, Onondaga County. There's Syracuse with some snow. To the south of there, right across the southern tier of New York, there could be some mixed precipitation, even a time of rain before we see the colder air really win out, and the snow will hold on here from Buffalo to Syracuse, and that will be the case until it tapers off. And I'm noticing the Tug Hill Plateau should see the bigger amounts of snow between Watertown over towards Hamilton County, up towards Saranac Lake. By the way, we've got the Winter Carnival that is underway through this weekend, so they're going to get some fresh powder for that event, Jordan.
Well, we're also talking about
Forecast at this point.
Yeah, that 32-degree line gets us, right?
Yeah,
Especially
retreating cold air.
Retreating
It's not
cold
a
air.
great situation.
Timing, track of this low pressure moving across. And you mentioned New Orleans, where we could get in on some of those stronger storms. And this is the weekend before Fat Tuesday, 1 week from today. So there may be an adjustment of the parade schedule depending on where these storms set up. But we do have low pressure tracking across the south, moisture meeting up with that cold air supplied by high pressure. And right where the two meet, there will be that frozen variety, we'll call it, across the Ohio Valley into parts of the Virginias and Pennsylvania, where we've got more colors on the map showing that potential for either ice, snow, maybe even just rain. And then you've got all rain to the south where we do need it. In places like Atlanta, we're down a couple of inches for the year, but we're down even more than that if you go back to December 1st. And that's the case for a lot of us here in the south. We just don't want this. We don't want the severe weather, but we can't rule it out at this point. Here's a look into the colder air where we will have some of the snowfall. The European model wants to bring light to moderate snow for parts of New England, even specks of purple showing the heavier amounts. But watch what happens when I show you the American model. Usually it's the other way around. Usually the American wants to beef it up a little bit more, but really the American is showing the absence of snow, showing more of a rainy potential for the lower Hudson Valley over toward the 95 corridor. So this is an early look at our weekend storm, kind of moving that rain northward, that rain snow line all the way up to Chicago, all the way to Gary, Indiana. Fort Wayne, could we see some freezing rain, some icy precipitation. You can see that snow as the moisture hits that cold enough air from Syracuse to Albany, but right here for the big cities, New York City, up towards Boston, even Hartford could be right on that rain snow line. Now, we have had a lot of snow so far this year. The only place looking at a deficit is Caribou, but all the arrows in an upward position here, although D.C. right at average with 8.5 inches so far for the season. Boston, 39.5 inches so far this year and counting. We've got snow today with a winter weather advisory. We'll see what happens this weekend. There is an opportunity for some snow Sunday night and then kind of going over to a mix of rain and snow. Same thing for New York City, where we still have piles of snow all over the streets here. We've got rain, snow coming into Sunday night and then changing over to rain for President's Day and also into Monday night. Jordan.
Well, let's get everybody